Okay, we'll get started. Hello and welcome to our What's New webinar series. As mentioned in previous sessions, this is designed to summarise and take you through the changes that have been made to Colleague as part of our latest release. That release is 25.04.02. If you have any queries with regards to the session, please, there's a Q&A area in the session, so please send through your queries. If you could keep them relevant with the context of the session, i.e. based on the features that are being shown, that would be ideal. This session is being recorded and subscribers to the What's New series will be sent a copy of the session afterwards. We'll also upload it to YouTube and we'll do a social media post as well. So let's get started. Right, okay. So obviously, again, just to revisit the basics, following a release, firstly, users will be sent a notification to advise that they've been upgraded, and there'll be a link to open up the release notes to advise that. Also, effectively from the help file, you can also access the release notes as well. So if you click on the question mark icon at any time, that opens the help file, and the latest release will always be on the top left-hand side, the current release that's been deployed. There's also a summarized video which will kind of highlight the things that we're about to go through, and obviously links through to the release notes. So if I click on here, this takes us to the release notes, and essentially what this session will be is me really going top down in this release notes overview. So if I start with one of the main features of the update, which was the checklist functionality being added to the candidate portal. Just drag that over there. So in terms of the portal, so for those that aren't aware, Colleague is a candidate portal, as a contact portal as well. And it's to be used for scenarios where you want to give a user access to their profile, for them to be able to edit things about their profile, for them to be able to, you can decide what functionality they utilize in this portal. But if you want them to add their own skills, upload documents, on a placement side, if they're associated placements, obviously gives you the ability to add timesheets as well. But the new functionality that we've added is the checklists area now. So for obviously the checklist area is available in the system as you'd expect in the Colleague UI. But what you now have is the ability for a candidate to also submit their checklist items within this area as well. In terms of its functionality, it works largely the same as it does within Colleague. So the candidate can open up a checklist item, they can upload a document, they can preview a document that's been added there as well. The document drop-down will only consist of documents that are set to be viewable within the portal. So when I say that, what I mean is on a candidate record, on the Documents tab, there is a Show in Portal tick flag. And only documents that have got that tick flag set are then visible to the candidate within the portal area. So that'll be the same for obviously documents they can select there. But ultimately the main point here is that they can go to a checklist item, upload a file based on whatever information you've asked for them to upload, and mark items as complete. And obviously that allows them to complete off checklist items and saves you the admin of extracting that information from them. In terms of being notified by a checklist item being completed, that's done based on a user setting. So within the system, in global settings, you've got a portals option, which basically allows you to be informed when events happen. So things like be notified when a document has been uploaded or a checklist item has been completed on the portal. Basically, you can set what email addresses are in there, and obviously they'll come through. Also, in terms of which checklist items are visible, obviously on the candidate, you have a checklist, and those are all visible. But on the portal, it might be that you've got certain checklist items that aren't appropriate for the candidate to see on their portal. So you've got within the admin area under checklists, under each checklist item, there's an option that says show in portal. So show in portal is there, and then obviously you can set that to yes or no. And then based on that, obviously that will dictate whether or not they appear for the candidate. Also as well, you can define whether or not the candidate has access to checklists individually or in bulk. So what I mean by that is you've got a global setting as to whether or not you're enabling checklists in general, as in whether or not this option appears for candidates when they log in, but also on the candidate record against that's the wrong candidate record, sorry, this one. On the portal details, you've got edit checklists there. So you can set whether or not checklists are being used in the portal as a kind of global setting to turn it on for everyone, and then you can define individually against each candidate whether or not they have access to a checklist based on these settings. And again, they're defaulted and defined within global settings, and also when you're creating a portal user, you can obviously set the behavior there. But that pretty much covers the functionality. Ultimately, again, it will work as you expect it to. You select records, you choose files, select files, and it uploads those files to the system, and obviously they then have a preview of it. So that's the checklists that have been added to the candidate portals area. Obviously, if you are interested in candidate portals, get in touch. These obviously are branded to suit the candidates or suit the client, should I say, sorry, so that it's branded based on your own branding. Right, next one along in the release notes is custom field permissions. So when I say custom field permissions, what I'm referring to is obviously on a candidate record, company contact, you have these you have an option for any extra fields that you might want to add, and obviously permissions around these fields now will look more so. So if we go into the admin area, and if I go to custom fields, and we'll stay on the candidate entity and pick on this text field as our example. So what we've got here is a permissions section. And what that basically means is we can define whether or not users within certain groups have full access, read-only access, or no access to those custom fields. But what we've done is we've made some extra settings there in that if you were to say assign full access to consultants and you're part of the admin user group, or vice versa, what that would mean effectively if I refresh this candidate record, if you were not, if one user group has been assigned full access, then the other user groups would have read-only access to that field, because obviously they've not got, there's been a user group that's had that full access assigned, so they've not, you need to now then determine that they've got full access if you want to grant that. Likewise, if it was a case that a user group got assigned with read-only access and nothing else was assigned to any other users, then it'll be read-only for that user in terms of them being able to see the data but not edit it. And for everyone else, it would be just removed from view. Because again, you've got a setting here where it's been set to read only for one set of consultants, and then it sort of transcends, it sort of takes everyone a step down if they've not been assigned the relevant access. You obviously can have a situation there where you've got user groups that have got full access. So some have got full access, some have got read access. But yeah, if it's the case that one's got read only, then everyone else is got no access. And the other one obviously is the scenario of just that have no access. So you can assign certain user groups with full access, certain user groups with read-only access, and certain user groups with no access. And obviously, if someone's got no access, then again the field is hidden from view, specifically for those users. But that's the updates that have been made there, effectively with regards to custom field permissions. Next one along is to do with Quill. So Quill is an AI note taker, essentially an automated note taker for tracking telephone calls, interview meetings, and they've got some other really good features like automated scorecards and the ability to reformat CV text or job description text. As a provider, obviously it's a third party. It's not part of Colleague, but we've effectively integrated with them. So if you're using their service, they've got a sort of extension tool within the browser, and if you were using their service, it would be able to write directly to Colleague and create histories on behalf of the different workflows that you're running through Quill. Effectively, we've got a webinar coming up in the coming months, or coming weeks, should I say, that will be sort of circulating when that's all kind of firmed up. But that'll be a webinar about, Quill will be going through a demo of, adding some histories to a Colleague system and showing how it works as a full demo for Colleague clients. So when that webinar is available, we'll distribute the dates and times of that. And also it'll be recorded as well. But also, if you're interested between now and then, if you're still interested to proceed as well, you can obviously go to the Quill website. They've got quite a straightforward way of requesting a demo and an ability to try out elements for free as well. So it's worth obviously reaching out to them if you are interested and you don't want to wait until that sort of demo is conducted for you. But that's the Quill integration there. There's also a link to our sort of generic integrations as well. Obviously, Quill's been added to this list now, but our integrations list obviously keeps growing based on feedback and requests. And Quill obviously was another scenario of a client requesting for that integration to be put in place, and so it was. Next thing along is the importing of leads for an Excel spreadsheet. So that's fairly self-explanatory. Just as you have the import feature available for candidates, companies, contacts, we've now updated it to also now have lead as an option there as well. And there are obviously sample spreadsheets. If I click on that, there's sample spreadsheet for the candidate, the contacts, the company, but obviously the example lead spreadsheet is available there as a link also. I need to get an icon there in front of that, but yeah, the sample lead is there. Click on that and it will download the example template. That obviously you would need the data to be in this format. You wouldn't need data in all these columns. The lead title is the only mandatory field as part of creating a lead. Everything else is optional. So if I, as an example, if I was to go to here, choose file, and then I was to select a file, this one here, just to import that. Yeah, effectively, you've got the lead now imported. Go to leads. I mean, I've obviously only imported one lead there, but the option is there to obviously import multiple. But that imports the lead and gets everything there. It will look at the company that you specified, and it will try and match it up to any existing company. So if there is a case that you're importing a lead against a company that exists on the system, it will match it up. Likewise with a contact, it will try and match it up. And if it doesn't find a match, it obviously then will just put it in as plain text. That's the lead import. Okay. Next one along is the history document option. So when you are on a candidate and that candidate obviously has history against an email, should I say, you click on that email. It obviously gives you a preview of the attachment that was associated to that email. Previously that's been the limit to what you've been able to do there in terms of seeing the attachment, but there is now an option here to attach that document to the record or download the document as well. It's there, that option is there as well. So yeah, effectively what you can do is hit attach document. That attaches that document to the record, and then if you go to documents, I've downloaded it before on this record. So, but yeah, effectively it shows obviously the documents there and downloaded, and you then have all the functionality that you need in terms of editing it and adjusting it as you need to. The next one along is to do with uploading documents to templates. So what I mean by that is if I go to template here, So when templates are being created, and I'll use the formatted CV template here as the example, but when templates are being created, there is this option here for additional attachments. And that basically means, in the context of a document being created, that basically means additional files that are going to be appended into the file, like sort of added to the file as part of its creation. So effectively, it needs to be docx files, because it's docx documents that are being created by this workflow. But you have obviously an ability to assign additional attachments, and previously that was done by attaching the file to an existing record in the system and then looking up that record in the system. That's the example here. And then from there, it giving you a drop-down list of the documents that are associated to that record, so that you can then assign it. What we've now added is this extra option here where you can upload an attachment. And what that means is, if I click off that, what that basically means, if you click on that, hit upload, you can then select a file, a different file here, and that will upload the file to the template. So that's obviously showing you the attachment, or showing you the file that's been uploaded, rather than being associated to an existing record in the system. And then you have these options of before default template or after default template there that you have. That was for a document, but if we look at a email template, you've got the same situation. So you can create or you can attach default attachments to an email template, and that can either be uploaded to a record, and then you look up the record and associate the attachments that way, or you've got this option that's that way, or you've got this option where you can upload a file and just select a file locally that you've got, where you're just saying that's the file that I want to have automatically attached as an attachment to the template. So that's that functionality there. It just means that you can upload files now. Next one along is mandatory fields based on company type. So what I mean by that is, if I go to mandatory fields here, this is really to accommodate the scenario of, you're creating companies on the system, and some of those companies have got, if it's an umbrella company, there's certain mandatory fields you want to store. If it's a limited company, there's certain mandatory fields you want to have in place. If it's a supplier or if it's a client, there's certain mandatory fields you want to have in place. So when you're selecting to add a mandatory field now, you can see that you've got this company type drop down. So if I had an industry code, for example, what I'll say is that the type where that is necessary is customer and supplier. Let's say, sorry, customer. So basically, the industry code is then assigned to that company. Sorry, the industry code is then assigned as mandatory field against that type. If I did another one for employee count, let's say this is against third party, and we'll do third party and umbrella, maybe. Sorry, I did that wrong. Third party, umbrella. There you go, that's got them added. And then this one, let's do limited company and customer. Okay, and then if we go to create a company now. If we say, example company 1, 2, 3. I've created an example company 1, 2, 3 before. Let's do 4, 5, 6. There we go. How about that? Right, and then if we go to mandatory fields, let's say that we select the type of customer. What you can see there, as soon as I selected customer, the industry field became mandatory. Likewise, if I select third party, you can see there that the employee count has now become mandatory. And that's obviously feeding from these options here where I'm saying, based on, if I selected a, if it was just customer, it would be just be industry. If it was just third party or umbrella, again, it will be employee count there. And that's basically, the functionality. You specify the type, and then you can define the associated mandatory fields for the company. Right, next one along is the ability to set unique lookup codes. So if I go to, let's just close out that. So this is a setting where, based on a user group permission, you can define whether or not you can create your own your own codes, basically, to your lookups. What I mean by that is, obviously, when you're creating a code on the system, when you're creating an entry on the system for a lookup, you have the description of it, what it's actually going to be saying, but you also have a code, a background code that's being created there. And based on that user group permission, you can now decide that when you're creating a lookup code, that code appears, you're able to enter in your own code. So, if you were to use an existing code, for example, so if I say I'm going to create an existing code here, it wouldn't let you do that because there's already a lookup code with that assigned. But if you were to add in a unique code, hit save there, then when you're adding anything, you can obviously have your own defined codes there, rather than otherwise they're like this, they've kind of been automatically generated by the system. That's more of an administrator's thing, really, for kind of back-end reporting. It's not really probably of interest to most users, but that option is there to do that now as well. Next one along is about getting into sort of more minor UI stuff. So it's when you're creating a user, when you're creating a candidate record or a company or a contact, if there are any existing duplicates, then it gives you a warning of that now as you're trying to hit save. So, for example, if I was to do, let's do David. So obviously you've got 11 duplicates found there, but previously you could just hit save. Now when you hit save, if you've not checked on those duplicates, when you hit save, it will give you a little warning here saying, you've got these records, do you still want to proceed? And then you can, if you want to, you can just hit OK and it will register the record. If you do click on that duplicate warning, it will then know that you've done that, so it won't give you that message. But yeah, ultimately it just gives you that little warning now when you're clicking to create a record, just to make sure you're aware there's potential duplicates there, and that's the same for all records. User group permission for company placements. So if I go to a company record, go to admin and user group permissions. So on the company record, you've got an option off the View More menu for a section called Placement Checklists, which is how you configure specific checklists relevant to this company when you're making a placement with them. On user group permissions now, you've got the option, if I go under type in checklist here, you've got the option of access placement checklists. So if that's set to no access, then on the company record, under View More, that option will no longer be visible. So yeah, it's sort of almost not complicated than that, really. Next one along is commas. So yeah, effectively, if we go to user overview, when you've got a large number sort of being listed within this area. As an example, I've got a target there that's in the thousands. It will now put a comma in there just to make it a little bit cleaner on the eye with regards to the number being listed out there. And it's the same for the main numbers that are being listed there. They'll be split out and shown with commas there, just so it's a little bit easier on the eye. Next one along is the payment address filter. So if I go back into a candidate, effectively from a candidate address, you've now got this option where you can define whether or not it is a payment address. And what I mean by that is off view more, we've got payment details. You've got a section of a payment address, and you are specifying basically where that candidate, what their address is for their payments. Likewise, on a company record, you've got an invoice address, yes, no, and again you define what addresses are invoiceable addresses, or addresses where you would address an invoice to. You effectively have the same thing now on the candidate record. So on a candidate record, you've got payment address, yes, no field. By default, when it was rolled out, all of these would have been set to yes, so it didn't affect anybody. But yeah, effectively, there's now an ability to specify whether or not addresses are listed as payment addresses or not, and that's essentially the feature. Next one along is the bank details. So let me open up bank details here as the example. So effectively, I mean, you've got an ability obviously to store bank details on the system. You've got the bank name will always be mandatory, but depending on whether or not you are adding a kind of a sort code account number based account with detail, or an IBAN or SWIFT code, it's basically either or. So that's been clarified in terms of the mandatory field grouping that's now been shown here, but also it's got formatting involved now as well. So when it's kind of working with a number, it will basically advise if it's an invalid number. Basically, if you typed in the wrong number of digits or the wrong character sets, it will basically give you warnings as it's being added. But you can obviously have banks where bank details where you've got only the IBAN and SWIFT code listed against the bank detail, and obviously the validation checks are in there to make sure that the fields are correctly formatted. The next one along is the bulk emailing of user group permissions. So bulk emailing user group permissions, should I say. So that's effectively when previously when you were sending out bulk emails, the user group permission was very much can you do it or not. But what we now have is an ability to sort of break that down on a per category basis. So bulk emails to candidates, bulk emails to companies, to contacts, from lists is a different thing, but effectively it's split down by the entity now, rather than just being bulk email, can you or can't you. So that's the option there. There's a global setting around the default rejected by. So what I mean by that is when you are dealing with a candidate, and if you are rejecting them, essentially there is a rejected by that's obviously available there, and that's on the requirement record and on the candidate record. You obviously have a rejected by in terms of the reason why that person be rejected. What you've got now is a default in terms of what that should be to begin with. So how do you rejected? Yeah, so default rejected by when rejecting a candidate. You obviously select which one should be the default when you're doing that workflow. If the majority of instances are that it's rejected by contacts, or it's rejected by a particular user when they're reviewing it, consultant, then obviously you can default that as you need to. The last point along here is the WhatX icon update, and that's a relatively minor update, but it will be helpful for those that are using the WhatX extension. So for those who don't know, obviously the colleague has an integration with WhatX, which enables kind of WhatsApp correspondence to be logged against the system and stored as history. What you do have as an option here is an ability to, you need to upload the candidate record to WhatX first before you start sending the WhatX message. And previously what would happen is it would show this WhatX icon regardless as to whether or not you'd uploaded the record to WhatX yet. So it's a two-stage process. First thing you do is upload the record to WhatX. That creates a link between this record and WhatX. And the second option is then once that's in place, you can then click on that to open up the extension tool and send whatever messages you want to send. But yeah, that functionality was previously it would show this icon whether that candidate has been uploaded to Vortex or not. So that's now been done, so that it's dependent on that two-stage process. Bug fixes wise, there have been obviously updates made through things brought in through support, but also other points of things that we've obviously noticed as we've been working with the system. It's worth noting the mandatory fields for requirement as well as quite a helpful update. So similar to the company with the type, on the requirement there's also this type option as well, and that's in place to work with different job types. So obviously if you are creating a requirement and you are you're doing it for a contract, obviously the charge rate and the pay rate might be mandatory fields, for example. Likewise, if it's rolling, same thing. But if it's perm, obviously that then switches up to be salary. So the minimum maximum salary might then become mandatory fields. Obviously, you can define based on your selected type what fields are mandatory for this requirement. And that's obviously the key update there. But there was some functionality in there that we had to fix as part of the bug fixing work, which is why it's in there. The rest are just items that you're free to sort of look through, but that's obviously just functionality that had issues that has now been resolved. So that covers the release for 250402. Obviously there will be a 250502 or 503 even that is due out. That will be due out. The next release will likely be on the week commencing the 7th of June, 7th and 8th of June. I don't think it will get it on the 31st and 1st, but yeah, 7th and 8th of June is when the next build is lined up to take place. And again, there'll be a release notes for that. There'll be a what's new for that session as well, and videos that we'll send out about that functionality. There's some good stuff in that build that's interesting that we'll be looking forward to talking about. But just check the questions. No, okay, no questions. Right, good. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, and see you again next time. Take care. Bye bye.